tonight. Frustration and anger after a 4-year-old is left without her wheelchair for weeks after it was damaged by an airline during a commercial flight. Also, crowded hospitals and a paramedic shortage are being blamed for a lack of ambulance services in our province. Plus, a recent survey shows 40% of people in Saskatchewan are skipping the dentist, and some that do go are walking out without paying their bill.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, November 9th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for watching. A shortage of paramedics, crowded hospitals, and other factors are being blamed for recent gaps in ambulance service. As Jason Warwick reports, the government says it's doing its best to improve the situation, but the opposition says that's not good enough.
The opposition NDP says the lack of reliable ambulance service should be one of the government's top priorities.
It's really disappointing to see a government that is failing on so many fronts, and we see them failing when it comes to access to ambulances when people need them.
According to Saskatchewan Health Authority figures obtained by the NDP, there were more than 1,100 instances in the past 8 months where no local ambulance was available. That total doesn't include Saskatoon, Prince Albert, and other communities served by private ambulance companies. Regina had the most, with more than 300 instances where no ambulance was available. But even some much smaller communities such as Cutknife and La Loche still had dozens of these cases.
I think, everyone expects that when you call for an ambulance and you're in an emergency situation, one is going to be available. So it's jarring and incredibly concerning to see data that shows this is a daily occurrence where there are multiple times a day. It averages out to about 5 times a day in the last 8 months where there's no ambulance available when someone calls.
The head of a group representing ambulance companies agrees it's a growing problem.
Absolutely, it's a concern, not only for us here in the province, but nationally it's an issue. I know, that's happening more and more everywhere.
Skaradko blames the service disruptions on several factors. He says there's a shortage of paramedics across Canada, and in Saskatchewan alone, 150 vacant positions. Hospitals are also crowded, he says, and when an ambulance comes to the hospital to drop off a patient, that ambulance can't leave until a spot's been found for that patient. That can sometimes take several hours, he said. Saskatchewan's Health Minister, Everett Hindley, says there are more training spaces and incentives available for paramedics. He says they're working closely with SHA officials to find solutions.
We want to ensure that, number one, that as we're training people, that we're keeping them here in Saskatchewan. I think that would be our utmost priority. But secondly, we also need to try to do as much as we can within what limits we have to ensure that we are filling those vacancies that we have in our ambulance services with these graduates that are coming out.
Hindley says he plans to meet with paramedics and other groups in the coming days. He says they are working hard to address the problem. Mowat hopes that talk will be followed by action. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Overcrowding at St. Paul's Hospital in Saskatoon was in the spotlight at the legislature this morning. This after Saskatoon's fire department received a complaint about the hospital violating the fire code last week. The fire department says it met with hospital officials this week and identified hallway crowding issues. It was told by hospital officials they're working to fix the crowding in the short term and long term. The opposition says it believes it isn't the first time overcrowding's been an issue. The nurses union says the hospital is always between 100 to 200% over capacity and has been for weeks. The Minister of Health says he can't say how often fire code violations have occurred, but he agrees it's not okay.
It's not acceptable, right? That's not something that we would want to have happen, and that indicates that we don't have enough room for the patients that are coming in. So it is a concern to us and something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed soon.
The Saskatchewan Health Authority says the hospital is taking steps to ensure it is following the fire code. It says there are times when the hospital experiences overcapacity and patients may be temporarily placed in hallways. No fines resulted from the inspection. A recent survey by Statistics Canada shows 40% of people in Saskatchewan have not seen a dentist in the past year. For many of them, it is just too expensive. But as Aishwarya Duda reports, it's hoped a new federal dental plan will help change that.
A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Gladys Newlove sees the financial struggle many of her patients are facing. The Saskatoon dentist says often they just can't afford to pay for the dental work that they need.
I've had people who I think have had to make some tough moral choices where they've agreed to a treatment, and I provide the treatment, and then they forgot their wallet. And they've never paid their bills. And this has happened multiple times too.
Newlove says she hasn't gone after people who've left without paying because she realizes that they're just trying to cope. She says many others can only pay for one tooth at a time based on urgency. She says a lack of dental coverage is why many people are struggling, not to mention the current economy. One patient told her he was intermittent fasting, but not for health reasons.
I discovered the reason he's doing intermittent fasting is because he can't afford to feed everybody in his family. It's heartbreaking.
The dentist says she offers different treatment options at her office, starting at what she calls the gold standard to a silver standard with a lower price. She says the least costly option is not the best option, but it's what most people can afford. Some Saskatoon residents agree.
I hadn't been, but now that I have a benefits package, I'm back at it a little more consistently.
Yeah, I'd have some definite dental work that would need to be done, but I'm not going out mostly because of the cost.
Newlove says one of her biggest frustrations is that oral care is not included in healthcare. She also says that a lot of mouth conditions are preventable and the education system needs to do better in creating awareness. The federal government is expected to expand the dental program by the end of the year, but we're still waiting for more details. The College of Dental Surgeons of Saskatchewan says if the plan is designed properly, it should give more people access to meaningful oral health care. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan is raising the legal age to buy vaping devices from 18 to 19. That brings tobacco and vaping product restrictions into alignment with alcohol and cannabis. The province says it consulted with health advocacy organizations and Indigenous groups before tabling the bill. One organization was Youth for Change. Lydia is a member, and they say they got hooked on vaping around age 13. They quit at 17 and have rallied for change since.
This bill of raising the age from 18 to 19 will help to get it out of schools. It is very prevalent in high schools and among young adults, and so raising it up to 19 will make it less accessible for those in high schools. The grade 12s will not be able to buy it for the younger peers, so I think that it will be a harder resource for the younger adults to get access to vaping, and it's just a really big issue, and so we just want to protect our youth by raising it up to 19.
The bill includes a ban on advertising of tobacco-related and vape products in public places or places with young people. The changes will come into effect in a couple weeks. High school graduation requirements are changing in Saskatchewan. By next fall, a financial literacy class will be mandatory for grade 10 students, and there won't be a need for as many credits in other subjects. Jesse Anton has more on how teachers and students are feeling about it.
That's a big part of the world, and that's just how society is that money is almost the foundation for pretty much anything and everything.
Grade 9 student Tyron Swift-Wolf says he's looking forward to taking his mandatory financial literacy class next year. The Saskatchewan government made the announcement this week. Education Minister Jeremy Cockrell said in a news release it allows students more personal choice in their learning and that it helps students be prepared for a rapidly changing labor market. Financial literacy educators say it's a win for everyone.
We have people, using credit cards to make ends meet. Food security is a problem with the price of inflation and, people not being able to keep up, and really times are tough financially. And so I'm hoping if we can teach a generation of kids what to do, that things can be different.
This change applies to students starting in grade 10 next fall. It reduces the number of credits high schoolers need in English and social science, and it increases how many electives are required to graduate, putting Saskatchewan more in line with the rest of Western Canada and Ontario. The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says it gathered feedback from about 700 high school educators, and the results were mixed.
Some teachers thought that those credits were necessary, while other teachers wanted to see students be able to get more varied courses throughout their high school experience.
While the types of high school class requirements are changing next year, the amount of credits has not. That number remains at 24. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
A Regina mom is not happy after her daughter's wheelchair was broken during a commercial flight, and no immediate action was taken to address what happened. Sarah Turnbull's daughter Blake has no mobility without her wheelchair, but on a family trip in October from Regina to Toronto, one of the wheel rims was bent in transit. She says she was trying to fix the wheelchair when her daughter was forced off the plane, crawling on her stomach to disembark. The child's grandmother says that's when she heard a captain ask if the 4-year-old was being a salamander.
The whole thing was very frustrating. They weren't kind. They were derogatory to my daughter. They broke our mobility devices, and there's been no support.
Turnbull says her daughter did not have access to a wheelchair during their stay in Toronto, and the pediatric wheelchair has still not been fixed. WestJet has apologized and says it is investigating the incident, and the airline says it will get the wheelchair replaced. Many students across the province wore poppies and paid tribute to veterans today. At Edithian Catholic High School in Saskatoon, students remembered the fallen. They prayed and the school choir sang O Canada. The school introduced 5 veterans in its Remembrance Day ceremony today. One of them was Elizabeth Ahenacu's late husband, Frederick Gustav Bird. Ahenacu is the Kukum at high school, and she says it's an honor for her and other families of Indigenous veterans to be recognized.
Personally, my deceased husband served in a Korean War. He was in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And so what I do is whenever there's veterans involved, I belong to the Veterans Association because I'm a widow. We go to powwows and they introduce us and you get to shake everyone's hand and you get to rub elbows with the other veterans and the other widows. So it's really a great honor to do that.
Ahenacu says there is still so much to learn. She says everyone should spend time learning about veterans and their sacrifices so we could enjoy a free country. The day concluded with students laying wreaths and adding family members who are veterans to the school's Wall of Remembrance. Many schools across the province marked Remembrance Day today ahead of a 4-day long weekend. A Regina woman facing a terminal diagnosis has found a home for her 3 beloved dogs. She previously shared her story with CBC, searching far and wide for someone willing to take them in after she's gone. Now, she says she's found the perfect match. We met Susan Dickens back in October. She has late-stage cervical cancer. She also has 3 senior dogs, Cisco, Buddha, and Olive. She wanted them to be looked after together if she dies before they do. It wasn't easy to find a trusted person who would take in the 3 dogs, but now she has. A family that lives on a rural property about 3 hours from Regina will take them in.
Oh, it's wonderful. So much space to run around, more than my own home. More freedoms, lots of other animals to interact with, and they got along quite well with their animals. It was really a match made in heaven, really. There's lots of walks in the country. I don't know, it's just perfect. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. And I have peace of mind now. I don't have to worry they're going to end up in a shelter. That was my biggest fear. They'd be so scared. they're used to a lot of attention and love, so that was a big concern for me.
Dickens says she is relieved to know her dogs will be loved and played with once she's gone. The show will go on even after a highway crash. Shania Twain is still expected to take the stage tonight at Sask Center. Yesterday morning, several members of her crew were taken to hospital after their bus rolled over on the Trans-Canada Highway near Wolseley. Firefighters found the bus on its side. Windows had to be broken, and first responders used the bus's emergency hatch to free 13 people stuck inside. All of them were taken to hospital in Indian Head with injuries described as not life-threatening. Twain was not on the bus. She performed in Winnipeg on Tuesday. The Queen of Me tour starts tonight at 7:30. Well, it was another snowy, cloudy start to the day in Regina, but temperature-wise, things are actually pretty comfortable. It looks like we are going to see the return of sunshine tomorrow and through the weekend and into next week. And with that sun comes some interesting temperatures. Ethan will have the details in your forecast after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Titan Automotive, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Welcome back. Our weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now in kind of another meh-day.
Yeah, that's the way November always seems to kind of turn out. Kind of a meh month, maybe. A little bit of snow here and there. And there is more of that meh right now through the province. A lot of clouds kind of just hanging around, and a little bit of some snow showers in southwestern Saskatchewan, although up around west central Saskatchewan we are actually starting to see a little bit of that clearing out now. Temperature-wise, it's a little bit of a mixed bag as a result of the sun and the cloud in some spots. Still coldest up in northeastern Saskatchewan. Our highs today only just kind of above -10. And southwestern Saskatchewan getting up into the about mid-single digits above freezing today. I think we did manage 6 degrees in Maple Creek. But for much of the rest of us, kind of a little bit warmer, a little bit colder depending where you are. There's a bit of a cold spot just to the west of Regina around Moose Jaw, only -7 at the moment. And in Kindersley right now, but you go over to Yorkton, usually a cooler spot, you're closer to the freezing mark. A little bit of wind gusts still lingering today in the far south of the province, especially in the southeast. We're starting to see those die off now. And as you'll notice through much of the rest of the province, we're seeing things completely drop off, and that is because we are going to be seeing a bit of high pressure moving in and clearing us out, but not before we see possibly another round of some fog tonight, especially building into west central Saskatchewan as we head through the wee hours of the morning. And this is by 10:30 tomorrow morning. We still could be seeing some lingering patches here and there, so just a heads up as you head out on your commute tomorrow. It could take until basically the later morning hours until we start to see that clear. But the sunshine is coming. Tomorrow, that is clearing away, and by tomorrow afternoon, a lot of places in Saskatchewan seeing mostly sunny skies, maybe some light cloud cover in central sections, and that'll stick around, especially for the southern half of the province as we head into the weekend as well. The north beginning to cloud up a little bit, though, in advance of this weak low-pressure system bringing some mixed precipitation, some light rain or snow overnight Saturday into Sunday. Not much accumulation there, and then clear skies heading into south and central as we head into the beginning of next week. Now, what's also going to help warm things up is not only the clearing of the skies, but also our jet stream. A bit of a ridge moving through over the weekend, and that jet stream basically hanging right over southern Saskatchewan. And our winds the past few days have been from the northwest. They will switch to coming from the south, and at times a bit breezy. So not only are we getting that nice Pacific air from the upper atmosphere and the jet stream, but that nice warm air from the states going to be moving in as well. And I think you're going to like what you see on our 7-day forecast here for both Regina and Saskatoon, because despite a little bit of wind moving in, which we can take, we will see that sunshine and those warmer temperatures, even possibly a 7-degree there on Tuesday before things start to drop off a little bit heading into next week. But Saskatoon, you've held up with not a day below zero here so far in our 7-day over these next few days here, and that is what it looks like for you despite a little bit of wind. If only every day during the winter could look like this forecast, Sam.
Well, thank you for the wind pep talk. We can, in fact, do it.
That's right. We got this.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Once Regina's top cop, Evan Bray, has a new job. Bray retired as chief of police from the Regina Police Service earlier this year. Today it was revealed that Bray wrapped up his 30-year career to go back to his roots in media. He will replace talk radio host John Gormley, who's retiring later this month on Relco Radio. Bray had a career in radio and television before becoming a police officer. We'll be back after the break. It's not something you'll find offered at most food banks, but game meat is a welcome delivery for some seniors in Newfoundland, and a much needed one too. Jessica Singer has more on the growing demands on food banks and why the game meat fills a need.
It's Barry Fordham's first delivery of the day, 45 pounds of moose meat. The shipment is going to Connections for Seniors to help feed nearly 200 people, and the impact isn't lost on him.
What do I get out of it? I get the good feelings. The hairs on my arms, if you can't see them now, are sticking up because of the good feelings that I get in helping out our fellow persons.
Fordham delivers game meat to food banks as part of Sharing the Harvest NL, connecting hunters with food programs. He says game meat isn't always easy to come by and is especially appreciated.
It's a more special feeling than other food banks, I think, because this is what they grew up on. It gives us great feeling, I gotta say. It's very, very self-rewarding.
Seniors 65 and older make up more than 10% of people in the province who rely on food banks. Executive Director Mohammed Abdallah has seen a major uptick in seniors looking for support. Demand has tripled in the last 2 years alone.
It is alarming. It was expected after COVID hit that we will see an economic challenges, especially with the most vulnerable population. Seniors are on a limited income and they don't have a choice. Once they turn 65, there's not much they can do.
Barry Fordham's mother, Trafina, gets teary-eyed watching her son deliver the meat, what will soon be a warm meal for seniors like herself. It's an extra support many rely on as the cost of living increases.
Oh my gosh, every time I go to a supermarket, it's up, you know. It's really gone mad. It really is too much for us, like, you know, because you can only do so much.
Jessica Singer, CBC News, St. John's.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
Yeah, a bit of a foggy one possibly tonight in Regina, and a little bit chilly as well, down to -10. Partly cloudy skies, though. We're starting to see those clouds clear away, and by the morning, I think we will be looking at mostly sunny skies. A little bit of a wind, though. Keep in mind that's -8, going to feel a little more like -15. Could still be some patches of fog here and there as we head to the noon hour, but should be clearing out. Things warming up, thankfully. We'll be at -3 and on our way to a high of around -1 or so. Saskatoon, again, around -8. Some possible fog for you as well, and a pretty similar picture tomorrow. I think we are looking at those mainly sunny skies again, feeling into the mid-minus teens a bit here and there. But by the afternoon, we'll be at the freezing mark, expected to be just above that. A little bit breezy at times, but like that pep talk I gave, Sam, we can handle that.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, it is the beginning of the end of an era on CBC Radio in Saskatchewan.
Thanks, everybody, for listening all these years, and we'll chat again a little later. Bye now.
Today, Garth Materi hosted his very last edition of Blue Sky over the noon hour. After 36 years with CBC Saskatchewan, with 42 years in broadcasting overall, he's retiring. Garth has been hosting Blue Sky for the last 15 years, but fans worry not. He will continue to host the afternoon edition until December 15th. That is his last day on air. We'll have more on how we're celebrating Garth's amazing career and contributions to the news history of our province in the weeks to come. And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can always head to our website, subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.